The world is saved. The living room's dark, save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
George.
I am Dr. Mario and I am saving lives. Yes, Lions.
God, I hate you so much.
Yeah, no, that song has been in my head nonstop for 2 weeks. So welcome to my world.
Here's why I hate you so much. So I'm going to lift the veil, open the kimono a little bit on how we do production of this fine audio broadcast. We do like a little bit of a pre-show, like chit chat, like kind of loosen up the vocal cords, like get our podcasting muscles stretched out. Yeah. And before that, I remember distinctly thinking, he's going to sing that music the second we start recording. Be prepared for it. But then we were having our little friendly chat about nerd stuff like D&D and Rick and Morty, and I forgot.
So you basically got hit with this twice.
Yes.
Excellent. No, I'm so it's like a before image, Goku knows the after image technique, the before image technique. So excellent. No, I'm glad, but absolutely no. I'll be sitting there at work and just be like, oh man, something, and they're like, oh, this person has their doctorate and blah blah blah. I'm like, I am Dr. Mario and I am saving. And I can't say anything about that for two reasons. One, most of the people I work with wouldn't even know the tune if I hummed it to them.
Nope.
And most of the people that would know the tune certainly haven't seen that YouTube video or know the words to it. And I can't send it to them because it's wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, that's a big NSFW right there.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Even the thumbnail is him naked. I mean, like, you can't even link someone to it and tell them to watch it later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I think I sent that to one of our friends, and the response was simply, I'm not opening that. Like, that was just, there's no, you can't sneakily get this in somebody's head. Like, they've got to know going into it that it's Dr. Mario all the way down.
Yeah. And he is saving lives. So we're obviously talking about Dr. Mario this time. And the one kind of history fun fact I wanted to mention with all of the deep, hard cutting research that we do is if you had to guess, this is a Nintendo game, right? What year do you think this game came out?
If I had to guess, I would guess 1988.
90.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. They were already working on Super Nintendo games when this game came out.
Really?
Which, I mean, there's always some overlap between generations, but, like, this is way later than I thought.
Yeah. No, definitely. I would have thought that would have been, like, Mario and then all of the Mario fanfare that Mario has spun off. But I guess we're used to living in a post-Mario world where, like, Mario has branded himself onto everything. there's like Mario Party and Mario Kart, Mario Golf, and Mario Tennis, and Mario hangs out with you on your couch while you stream, Overwatch. That's wrong. But anyways,
that thing.
Yeah, like while you sit there and watch Westworld with Mario, So, yeah, I guess there was a time when there was just a game called Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
and that was it.
This was 2 full years after Super Mario Brothers 3.
Right?
Yeah,
I thought for sure it would have been Super Mario Brothers, maybe Super Mario 2, but somewhere around Super Mario 2 would have been when this came out. So I am surprised.
Yeah. God, that song is going to just be in my head the entire time we're recording, and there's nothing I can do about it.
No. Now you're actually recording the podcast effectively with weighted clothing because about 20% of your brain capacity is going to just running that song over and over again. And the rest of it's like, I have to be cognizant and talk.
I got to continue to breathe and have my heart and liver function.
Oh, man. Wait, what if that's the portion of your brain it's taking up? Is it just kind of like move over what was that?
Autonomous?
Yeah.
Autonomous.
Yeah. Move over, breathing. Dr. Mario's here and he is saving lives.
That would be, one, ironic. but two, kind of welcome, because if this song is in your head long enough, you kind of want to die.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yes.
So I want to ask you first, what's your nostalgia experience for this game? Did you play this a lot as a kid?
I played it a bit as a kid. I didn't play it a lot as a kid. I played it, I don't know, as much as I played like every game. So it wasn't one of my staples, but it wasn't, something that I played once and then never played again. I played it a bit. My personal experience is then like I played it not at all for many, many years. And then about 5 years ago, one of my friends at the time said like, "Oh, we're going to play this game and I'm going to crush you." And I was like, that's legit. And I just mopped the floor with him. So I kind of have like a weird special place in my heart for like trouncing this person that it meant so much to them and so little to me. And I was still able to beat them at it. So like that was enjoyable. But
so you have like one of your lenses is for childhood and the other one is for like college.
Yeah, that would be accurate. What about yourself?
So I like puzzles and puzzle games generally. Like I don't really have a problem with these kinds of games or even like physical puzzles, like where you have to unlock a thing, but I don't really love doing it under time pressure. And because I didn't have this game, I always had to play this at like a friend's house, and it's not something I'm like innately good at. Like I have to kind of practice at it. It's not something I went out of my way to play because it's like I have limited time to play with my friend. Do I want to like play, Sonic 2? Do I want to play Mortal Kombat? Do I want to play, like Tecmo Super Bowl or friggin' Dr. Mario? So Dr. Mario frequently did not win out. Right. And for some reason, the mechanics, which I mean, we'll dive into a little bit, but they're just different enough from Tetris that being good at Tetris, which I'm not, but I mean, I'm better at Tetris, doesn't automatically make you good at Dr. Mario. Like it's a different kind of problem solving.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
As a kid, I don't think I really got that. I think I just equated these two similar-ish looking games, and I was noticeably worse at one. And instead of like investigating and unraveling that mystery, I was just like, no, screw it. I'll play Mortal Kombat or something instead.
Yeah, I'll play the thing that I'm good at. Yeah, absolutely. We can touch on it more in gameplay, but no, as I was playing it, I definitely was hit at one point where because when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, no, because we were talking about wanting to play something for the NES, and I think one of the things I threw out there was like, oh, Tetris or whatever. And I was like, Tetris. Well, let's do something a little bit more, niche. Let's do like Dr. Mario. Cause like in my mind, those two were the same things. And after playing for about a half an hour, I was like, these two things are not the same. This is closer to a different game, which we can get into, where I was like, it's closer to that game than to Tetris. And so I thought that was fascinating that I was able to notice that now, because I never would have picked up on that as a kid, because it's like, you drop things from top to bottom and then they disappear,
Yeah. If you describe it, if you do like the TLDR of what the gameplay is like, it could easily be confused for Tetris. And I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they saw Tetris and they were like, well, if we just slap Mario on Tetris, we're going to get sued into oblivion.
Right.
But if we make this one non-trivial game mechanic difference, it will be a unique game. And then we can, brand it with our super famous character. So like, I can give some props to Nintendo for not doing what a lot of like mobile game developers do now, where they're like, oh, it's Candy Crush, but instead of candies, it's different kinds of smoked meat. And it's like, no, that's still Candy Crush. Like, it's an identical freaking game. It's like, no, this is smoked meat slam. That's Candy Crush. And it's like, no, Dr. Mario is actually a different kind of puzzle game from Tetris. So good on you.
I believe the name of the game that you're looking for, it's called Meat Beat Mania.
It's good.
But no, yeah, absolutely. I did appreciate that. But
I'm going to deviate now and just tell you, did you know in Europe, they apparently were okay with the visual of that joke, but not the title? They actually white out and it just says Beat Mania, but then they never explain why the controllers look like hams.
Yeah, actually I just recently watched something on like 7 weird censorings of Steven Universe, and it's just wild. Some of the things where they're like, oh, no, kids can't see this. And you're like, really? This is
where you draw the line?
this is the oddity of like, oh no, this far, no further. Like I always love as long as we're deviating, the white flash when people hit things or hit people.
Which I agree with, because I think that was Tony from Dorkly. I agree that makes the hits look way more intense.
Oh yeah, because it looks like the person. Because I mean, we've both been hit in the face pretty hard. I know when I've been hit in the face really hard when everything kind of flashes white for a second, and you just you're startled afterwards. You know, so that's way worse. Absolutely. But anyways, we digress. So visuals. What'd you think of the visuals?
Well, during that pre-show that I mentioned, I think you summed up the visuals of this game are really visual. Like there's a game and you look at it.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Yep.
The graphics, we've been playing mostly 16-bit era games. So I did actually have to remind myself a couple times, like, this is a Nintendo game. This is a Nintendo game. You're judging the graphics in a Nintendo game, not because they're bad, but because if you look at like the fidelity of like Mario or the little germ guys under the magnifying glass, you're like, wow, those are kind of simpler than they should be. They're like, I can tell what it is, but they're not as detailed as they should be. And it's like, oh, right, this is just a Nintendo game. Right. And then eventually you're not really looking at like anything on the screen except the pill bottle and because I mean the game, you know, it plays automatically, so it's not like you can sit there and admire the textured background behind Dr. Mario. Like it's happening.
Yeah. No. And just everybody should strap in for the deep number of drug references that are going to inherently come in with this game. But yeah, no, just like a true drug addict, I spent most of my time staring at the pills as opposed to, you know, anything else. But yeah, basically,
fantasizing about them making your problems go away.
Yes, curing all of my fever and my chills. But so yeah, because like with all of the other games that we played, and most games in general, you can talk about the visuals as far as like, you know, oh well, this opening scene did this, and then like this first level, the second level, all of the levels are the exact same. So basically, I would argue that once you've played 5 minutes of this game, you've gotten everything you need to know about the visuals.
Seen it all.
Yeah, which in a game of this style, though, I would actually argue is a good thing, because you don't want to be in a puzzle game that's based on like reflex mastery, you know, and puzzle solving. You don't want to be constantly switching up the background, you know, like that would not in any way service gameplay, you know?
No, it would almost definitely be a detractor.
Right.
I mean, I can guarantee you that people would play chess differently if on your 30th move of the game, the board changed color.
Yes.
And it was like, now it's a turquoise and pink board. And you're like, whoa, so my turquoise are pink. And it's like, you have to remember which colors turned into which other colors.
Yeah, it just goes like, yeah. If after you've been playing chess for about 30 moves, you know, the Mad Hatter from Futurama comes in and goes, change places, and then just moves all of the pieces around. Yeah,
that might be a fun game. It would be a different game.
Correct. It would not be the Game of Kings anymore. It would be the Game of Kings after Dr. Mario has treated you. But on visuals, I did think that they were so as far as the how did they look, I thought that they were serviceable. They were good for an 8-bit game. As far as for how they assisted gameplay, I thought that they did so very well. I thought they did a good job picking like solid primary colors, you know, like there's red, blue, and yellow. And those are the colors, you know, so.
And that is they.
Yeah. And so there's no like blue, green, and teal, you know, at no point. Right. At no point was I just kind of like, oh crap, what color is this? A lot of times I was like, oh God, there's so many colors on the screen. I don't know where to put this pill. But you know,
you still know.
Yeah. That's
you still know this is the color my pill is.
Right.
Whether or not I know the right place to place it is not the fault of the colors.
Yeah, it's not the fault of the colors, it's the fault of the game. It's the fault of my skill level, because I, at some point, was, I'm sure like many Dr. Mario, overwhelmed with the sheer volume of sickness that was in this person. So, you know, I was just kind of like, oh God. But I
do wonder, so what are the two most common types of color blindness? It's red, green, and blue, yellow.
I don't know. I know red green is the most common in men. I think.
I think colorblindness is almost
just-
it's almost exclusive to men. Women are virtually never colorblind.
Right, because I think it's on it's on the X chromosome, so they have a backup.
Right. A backup, yeah, spare.
They have a save file.
So I'm just trying to, and I could do research on this, but that's apparently not our shtick.
Nope.
I kind of wonder if they chose colors that would also be acceptable to someone who is colorblind, because a lot of modern games that have more realistic graphics, if they're trying to be nice, they will actually include a colorblind mode, because if you have like, night vision in your war game, it's like, oh, that's super cool if you can see green. like otherwise, if you can't see shades of green, it might not work as well in shades of, I think yellow is how they see green if you're red green colorblind. But like it's there are certain things that in the world, if the world isn't made for colorblind people, and then you make a game that's hyper realistic, you have unfortunately also made a game that's not right for colorblind people. But because most doctors don't stand next to pill bottles that are 6 times their height and hurl pills into them where the viruses are, I don't know why is he even trying to murder these viruses. They're not in a person; they're in a glass bottle.
Yeah,
But-
and that was actually something that I did notice that I wanted to discuss with you. So in my mind as a kid, you were treating a person,
yeah, I'd say that's definitely the implication.
right? But then the aesthetic is, or the visual is that it's a pill bottle, right? Or it's a bottle, So yeah, so like either one of two things, either A, through whatever like virtual mindscape that this works through, right? It's just the person is represented as a bottle. Or B, it's actually like he would then be like doing like trial runs on like a test culture, perhaps. I like the first one because I like the idea that there have been so many doctors in this universe, Dr. Mario being one of many, right? They decided that that the doctor's UI needs to be of a bottle, not of a human being, so that way they can distance themselves from
Oh my
the
God.
patient. So that way they don't, get the yips,
See, I was thinking the yips.
Yeah, the yips.
The yips. Is that a Scrubs reference?
No, the yips. I mean, yes, but no, the yips is. I think that's. I know that it was in Scrubs. It was in How I Met Your Mother, and it was in. I think it was in Friends. I think it's like a common thing.
This is like nerves. Like you get.
It's the yips is when you basically can't do a simple task you've done 1,000 times because you psych yourself out.
Huh. Yippee.
Yeah. Yippee skippy! I killed somebody.
So I'm wondering. Jesus, I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it's like a metaphor for solving a given person's illness. So like the pill bottle doesn't literally have the viruses. Well, what is it? Fever, chills, and
I don't know. All I know is
and
fever
yellow. Fever,
Yeah.
chills, and the yellow mucus. I'm gonna say mucus.
and bile. Yeah. something.
Bile, yeah, bile. Because now we're Aristotle treating humors.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, you gotta get in on those 4 humors, right? What was it? It was blood. What were the 4 humors?
I have no idea.
Hey, this is relevant, man.
I mean, yes, if you're playing Dr. Aristotle.
Now that game I would play. Somebody call Konami. We've got the next game.
We've got a hit on our hands. So it's yeah, fever, chills, and let's just say bile.
Yeah.
So there's an amount of that problem that a patient has, and you have to try prescriptions, and the pill configuration that's in the bottle at the time you beat the level is the configuration that you would then give to that patient.
Interesting. No, I like
it's
that
like
too.
a metaphor, man.
Yeah. No, I like the idea that it's just kind of like you're running a simulation on what the person has with in theory technology way beyond our own. And this definitely dips in the gameplay a little bit, but it just I want to mention it so badly. So at one point I was playing, and basically I had like one chill left, and Dr. Mario was like, okay, cool. Yellow pill. And I was like, I don't need that. So I just throw it off the side. And he's like, red, yellow pill, red, yellow pill, red, yellow pill, yellow, red. I was like, stop guessing. Don't just guess, man. like you're just because in my mind it was still a person. Like you're just pumping this person full of drugs, just hoping that you're getting it right. You have no idea.
Now that is definitely a commentary on like the medical system, because it's just like, oh man, he's like 99% of the way better. So how do I get him that 1% better? Try this. Okay, now try this. Nothing? Okay, try this.
Yeah, nothing. So then it's like, okay, the red one. No, nothing. All right. The green one. Nothing. Maybe the red and green one together. Nothing. Maybe the red one again, you know?
Well, it's the most annoying when you get like 6 double doubles in a row. So it's like I have 1 chill left and it's just like red, 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 red. And you're like, why? what? No amount of red is ever going to flush out this last blue, which makes me think you don't know what you're treating.
Yeah, no, he's swinging for the fences. I mean, he's a plumber. Like, I don't know.
Well, he got his degree by watching House and Scrubs and ER.
Yeah, no,
I've made a secret deal with myself that together, I think we can work through the entire song.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think that between the two of us, we can work through all of the brightly colored pills that will serve all your ills, just so long as you only have fever or the chills.
This is happening.
But yeah, no, I definitely at some point I completely lost faith in Dr. Mario, because I think we've said in another episode that he has a doctorate in art history and it's honorary.
Does. Yeah, he has an honorary BFA.
So that's what his degree's in. Clearly not in any medical field, because we both have a friend who's going through nursing school as we speak, and it's an accelerated program and it's very, very intensive. So I don't know what Mario went through to go from being a plumber, right, all the way up to a doctor in a
2 years. About 2 years.
About 2 years. Like that's pretty intense. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like,
I mean, is he treating toadstools? Because you never see the patients.
You don't. Yeah,
like, he lives in the Mushroom Kingdom, so there's like 2 other humans, right? There's Luigi and Princess Peach, and then everybody else is some kind of like fantasy animal.
Or the reason why there's only Luigi and Princess Peach is because they all went to go see Dr. Mario.
It's like
all that's left.
It's like the premise of the movie version of I Am Legend, where in the opening she's like, "So you've cured cancer?" "Yes, we've cured cancer." And then it's like everybody's dead.
Yeah. No, or even better, there were a whole bunch of humans. Now they all look like toadstools because of the treatment.
There you go. It was just like, it wasn't the Mushroom Kingdom. It was just like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Now they're just all horrible freaks.
And that's why Bowser is constantly trying to like kidnap the princess and like install his own regime, is because clearly Princess Toadstool has allowed this mad scientist, Dr. Mario, to transform all of these people into these, toadstools. And that's why Bowser turns them into blocks to ease their suffering, because there are these horrible, walking toadstool. Yeah, no, it's all coming together.
Yeah, no, we've got the makings of a really lame fanfic or fan theory going.
It still would be better than Super Mario Brothers the movie, though. I contend that.
Yeah, but I mean that's not like an accomplishment.
No, but no, the Super Mario Brothers the movie is a bar that no limbo expert could limbo under. So
not even Hermes Conrad.
No, not without losing his head.
So, I mean, we have to talk about audio because that's how we like do this thing. The audio is basically like the visuals, in that there is an audio. Mm-hmm. Like there are 2 songs, right? There's Fever and Chills.
Yep.
But then there's a third crucial song that I was introduced to, Off.
Yeah, it's like in what is it? I think it's like Chinese philosophy, how there's like, there is either, like doing something or doing something else, but then there's always the third option, doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, I can't remember if we talked about this or not, but you kind of, just like you have to get used to the music and sort of tune it out over time. Like, okay, I've heard this for the 50,000th time. Like, I'm going to now tune it out. You sort of have to learn to tune out the silence, because the sound effects don't go away, just the music goes away. And you don't really realize how much the viruses, like when you knock one of them out and they like do their little panic fit.
Yeah.
That really sounds like a dog or zombie violently scratching at a door.
Nice.
And when there's music playing, you're like, oh yeah, he's like throwing a little tantrum. But when there's no music playing, it really sounds like something scratching at a wooden door with its nails. And it's a little disconcerting.
Yeah, no. So my play experience for this was basically I was like, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna play this game. Set everything to easy as we typically do, and so I set it to I think chills. I forget which one, but the iconic one.
That's Fever.
Fever.
That's the default one.
Yeah. So the default music, default everything, and then sat down, played some Dr. Mario, and that game is still running right now. I was unable to I think I got up to level 18, 19. I got to 76 viruses, and. Damn. Yeah, and like that was the thing is that and then I had to stop for a little bit because I made about 5 just stupid mistakes in a row where I was just kind of like I'm colorblind now. I'm just flipping because there's nothing more frustrating than when you've got like red yellow whatever, and so it's like red yellow viruses whatever. You put the pill on top of them, red yellow, like you just the wrong side. Yeah. That's the worst, and I did that like 4 times in a row, so I had to take a break. But so because of that, like I was never able to change the sound because I was just in this purgative, never-ending game.
Poor baby.
But yeah, so yeah, I never got acquainted with the offsetting. It was always brightly colored pills that were solving all of my ills.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I did try the Chills music because I was like, oh, well, I know Fever is like the song and that's the one everybody thinks of. But I was like, oh, maybe Chills is okay. It sucks. Like, it's not even, it sucks. Like, you really have 2 options. You have Fever and Off because Chills is just, like, I'm sure if I listened to it 100 billion times, it would grow on me. But it has, it's the younger brother, right? It's Jerry Christ, the younger brother of Jesus Christ. And it's like, I've never heard of Jerry Christ. No, you have never heard of Jerry Christ.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Yeah. So like I played 1 game with it and it was so abysmally short because I was doing okay. And then I realized I really just wanted to change the music. And I was like, I could just die. So then I just stacked the pills up to the top of the bottle.
Yeah, no, I never went with the because that's the thing is you didn't die, you killed the patient.
Well, it depends. If it's your metaphor, then I killed them because I was frustrated with the music playing in my lobby. and if we're going with my metaphor, it's really not any better because I gave up on trying to save them because I was frustrated with the music in my lobby.
Yeah, no, you just like had that rage quit moment where you're like, you know what, I don't care, let him die. And people were like, Dr. Mario, you can't just let this patient die. I'm like, I don't care if they don't change this music right now, I'm letting it go. And so it went. It's a terrible union. I would want to be in that union.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, actually, for notes for music, I've just got these are verbatim my notes. Note the first, my God, catchy. And then, note the second, doesn't let you repick music. And then that's it. That's all I got for music. Like those 2 things was it's really, really catchy. And my God, I can't make it stop.
Well, so other than Chills being terrible and the music being off, having its own set of problems, the one thing about the music that stood out to me as kind of a little shocking was there's like music on the title scene and it's not the Fever music. Like there is actually a theme song for Dr. Mario. Fever is the level music.
I am certain that you're right, but no.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when I fired up the game and that song started playing, I was like, the hell is this?
Yeah, this is garbage. Yeah, because I remember just firing because, I remember this game and, again, I'm not amazing at these types of games. So I was just kind of like, oh, restart probably several times, and I just got stuck in this one. Because here's the thing, and this kind of leads in a little bit to gameplay. Here's the thing that I found with Dr. Mario is that it's very, very easy to get stuck in a cycle where you're not beating the level, but you're also not losing, which I got stuck in a couple of times where basically I made like several mistakes, and I'm like, this doesn't mean I can't finish the level. Like, I haven't made so many mistakes that this is unsalvageable. It's just going to take me an ungodly amount of time to clean up my mistakes and then move forward, progress in beating the level. So I'd say I spent about 4 hours playing, but there were definitely there'd be some levels where I beat them in like 5 minutes, and other levels where it'd take me like a half an hour to just slog through it,
Yeah, because I mean, you have the mistakes you yourself as a player can make, plus just the randomness of the pills you get, and the because I think the virus is, even if you play the same difficulty, that's 100% random.
Right, which I think actually I noticed speaks more. It's an odd difficulty curve because you think like, oh, well, it'd be very linear because they add X number of viruses per stage. But the randomness in which they're assorted makes a huge difference, because there were a couple of times where, just because of the way the viruses were laid out and just the way I happened to play, randomness, all of those sort of stuff, there was one point where I only had places for red or blue and no yellow. And so like every yellow instance of anything, I had to come up with some weird kludged way to like shunt that pill off to the side to like deal with that. And that was that. And so part of me, because at one point there was literally I'd say, let's say it's 10 spaces wide. 8 of them all across the top were all fever. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, this wasn't me to a large degree. This is kind of the game. So,
yeah, I mean, you got to treat it. You got to prescribe some high fives.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No. And laughter is the best medicine. So, they fell down. So, okay. So that does lead us into gameplay. And now I'm going to briefly, or for however long we're going to go down this rabbit hole. So, like I said, like I had a very weird game experience in that, I played it for about an hour or so, set it down, came back to it, played it for another 2 hours or so, however long. I don't know. Time ceased to have any real meaning. And so I started to, because it doesn't require a lot of like active thinking, so like you can set the back of your mind to just think about whatever. And all of a sudden I realized like, oh my God, Dr. Mario is like the perfect tool by which to teach somebody life lessons. Like the reason
I can honestly say that was not one of the ways I expected you to finish that sentence. Like I was kind of going through in my head like, oh, I wonder what he's going to say so that I can make sure I have something valuable to carry on the conversation with. But you just came from behind me. Like I was looking out over here.
I'm here. Yeah. No. In fact, like at one point I was like, this is why the Japanese are eating us alive on the world market, is because they have Dr. Mario.
So you became like a one world government conspiracy
theorist. Yeah, no,
like
I said, after like 2 hours of just do like my eyes are like glued open and bloodshot, like, yeah, I was just kind of like, this is it. This is everything you need to know is in life is in Dr. Mario. So couple of things. One is, like we just said, the way the stage starts out isn't always fair or right. And you know what? You just got to deal with that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So there's that lesson of like, life isn't always fair. It isn't always perfect, but you know what? Nothing is unsolvable. It's just how much time, energy, and effort you're going to have to put into it. It teaches you to manage short-term versus long-term goals, right?
Yes, it definitely does that.
Yeah, because the long-term goal is to clear it of viruses. But there were some times when like the most efficient option would be like, let's just say in this corner, I've got like a blue-yellow combination, right? And I've got a blue-yellow pill. So it makes most sense to drop it on top of those two, right? But the thing is, I've got a huge buildup in this other area. And even though it's less efficient, like I've only got a blue over there, I've got to get rid of those blues because they're much higher and closer to the top and a much higher risk, Mm-hmm. So I have to manage that short-term goal of getting rid of this thing that could potentially catastrophically end the game, and then deal with the long-term goal of, clearing the level. So sometimes I had to sacrifice overall efficiency of play in order to, deal with an immediate problem, which is something that I've noticed that I've seen people much older than us struggle with that concept.
Yeah. Well, and then there are people who have the opposite problem of they're not staring into the middle distance. They are only looking at what's right in front of them. So like they have no long-term goals. They're only putting out the fire that's immediately on fire. They're not thinking about how to prevent future fires.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So both managing short-term and long-term goals. There would be many times where I would make a mistake, and so sometimes I'd make a mistake. I'd be like, oh, well, you know what, that was a mistake, and that's fine. And especially like I personally would get a little frustrated because I'm like, now it's not operating at maximum efficiency, right? Like I have made a mistake, but you know what? That thinking doesn't get you anywhere, and it does make you more likely to make more mistakes. What you have to do is you made a mistake. That's fine. You suck it up. You move on with life. You keep trying to cure the patient, right?
You are hardcore winning me over on this like unified string theory of Dr. Mario.
So not only that, but it teaches you to quickly assess and manage the severity of your mistakes, because there'd be times where I'd make a mistake and be like, well, all right, that's fine. That's salvageable. But there would be times where I'd make either one significant mistake or 3 or 4 minor mistakes in a row that were starting to compound each other. And I would suddenly say like, oh God, this is starting to become severe. I need to triage this situation that I've created for myself immediately before I even look to my long-term goals, even short-term goals. I have now managed to create a problem that has to be dealt with right now. I am at risk of losing this game, And so in my mind, I'm like weighing all these options and, kind of like doing all this sort of stuff. I was like, this is a great project management tool, as odd as that sounds. Because
it teaches you how to be a project manager. Yes. Yeah.
So I was just like sitting there, because my company is studying lean manufacturing, Toyota, all that sort of stuff. I was like, this is all of it. This is TPS management systems right here, man. I was definitely like that. I think that any project manager get together where they're trying to teach new project managers, like sit down, play Dr. Mario for a few hours, and then tell me what you learned, And
if your pupils aren't massively dilated and you're not kind of foaming at the mouth, you're fired.
Yeah. Then you know what? You still have potential. You're just going to be slow tracked. You're not. If you can't come up with 5 ways,
a junior project manager.
If you can't come up with 5 ways 5 lessons you learned from Dr. Mario about project management, then you're just, you're not bad. You're just not a good fit for this company.
So I am half, you guys, you don't use Slack at work, right? You're a Google company. Use like Google Hangouts for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Slack is like a kind of chat thing.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Sorry. When you said you Slack at work, I'm like, I work hard, you jerk.
No, you use Slack. Yes. It's almost like they knew what they were doing. So you can set a status for yourself, and your status can include custom emojis. So my custom emoji status, because why would you ever actually put what you're doing in your status? That's dumb. Is half of like a neutral face with like the straight line and the straight mouth, and then half of a troll face. Because I think that sums me up pretty well. Like I get that. I'm nice. I'm always looking for the joke, but just because something's funny doesn't mean it's not like valid. And there's a little part of me that's like, maybe we don't release this episode until we've gotten a book deal for what Dr. Mario taught me about project management. Because that sounds really stupid, but I guarantee you if you release that as like a Kindle single, like there's an audience for that. It might not make you a multimillionaire, but like people would buy it.
Yeah, you get a couple $100, where people are like, oh, well, Dr. Mario and project management, and sure, sounds great. And then you never know. It could be like that. There's that 0.001% chance that, some person in some company somewhere says like, this is the book, like, oh, millennials will love this. And this will actually teach them. And it just like takes off. And then all of a sudden you're on, whatever the
doing the talk shows,
doing
the little circuit.
Yeah. But especially what was it? We had somebody, this is tangentially related, but we had somebody recently where they basically we had an issue in the lab, and it was basically somebody forgot something, right? And so when you're trying to assign root cause, you know, you have to say like, okay, well, it's like, oh, well, I'll try harder to remember. I'm like, I always start off with, I assume you're working as hard as you can all the time. So saying you'll try harder means you're going to give more than 100%. And by definition, that is the maximum any one person can give. So that's garbage. And so one person threw out just off the top, they're like, why don't we just get him a band you could put around his arm to remind him, like some big pink band to be super embarrassing. And just like paused for a minute. I was like, why don't we do that? And the person's like, I can't wait, that might actually work. And that's what we do now. Like when X, Y, and Z happens, and thus this tertiary person that doesn't normally have to do the thing has to do it. The person that is giving them the assignment also gives that person a pink, band that they put around their wrist, and they're not allowed to take it off until they do the thing. And so if they're on their way home and they're driving, they're going to look at their wrist and go like, oh God. And then they come back. So
I love that. Like, I have basically no complaints because, the likelihood, especially if it's one of those like Livestrong style bands, like those have kind of gone out of fashion. So the odds that the person you're giving it to, male or female, would already have been wearing something similar that they would confuse is pretty low, right? So like it stands out, right? It's just like the red string, the old like you tie it around your middle finger or whatever, and then you flip people off, and you're like, oh, I have to remember to flip you off.
Exactly, that's what I use it for.
I never forget. But yeah, that's this is going to be part of your book.
So now this is all of a sudden like slowly gone from, like, oh, hey, we played this game Dr. Mario, to like, okay, so this book deal that we're talking about.
Yeah, say more things. I do want to throw out, we did skip controls, which I don't think is an unfair thing to do, because like the visuals and the audio, there are controls.
Yes.
Left, right, down, rotate the pill. And that's it. Well, left, right, the pill falls automatically. Down accelerates it. And then,
does.
Rotate the pill left, rotate the pill right, which for something that's two colors and can only be present in those two orientations, you actually have to spin it a couple times to be sure which one is rotating it which way.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely the USB drive of,
it's always the third time.
Which it should never be the third time, but it's always the third time.
Yeah, but the reason I wanted to mention the controls specifically is because in games like checkers, way more so chess, way more so a game like Go or Mahjong, like there's simple and complex rules. So are the rules of the game simple or are they complex? And then there's shallow, how complicated is it to master the game, and deep. So it's there's like a quadrant in different games or in different places. So like chess, not terribly complicated. The rules are fairly simple, but it's very, very deep. Lots of combinations, lots of configurations, lots of crazy things can happen. And that's actually usually the definition of a good puzzle game, or like an engaging, thinking game, is that the rules need to be simple, but it needs to be deep, because a novice can enjoy a game that they don't understand the full depth of, but a novice cannot enjoy a game that they don't understand the full rule set of.
To speak to your point, the game that I've heard that is the exemplar of, was it simple but deep, right? Is Minecraft.
Yeah. Excellent example.
Yeah, where it's just kind of like it takes you 5 minutes to understand all of the mechanics that you need to know about Minecraft, and then you can spend years mastering it and doing all sorts of different weird stuff within Minecraft. So
yeah, but this is something about Dr. Mario that I thought was actually, I doubt I really recognized as a kid or appreciated, which was I had to continually remind myself, yeah, you weren't very good at this as a kid, and you're not going to be very good at it now, but you could become good at it if you're willing to invest effort in it, because it's not complicated. Right. Like it is simple enough that literally just practice, like even if you didn't do focused practice, would be enough to increase your skill level slowly, but you would still get slightly better over time. And then if you actually focus, because the rules are so simple, you could get considerably better over time. And the reason I wanted to make sure I pointed that out is because so Susan, my wife, played this game a lot as a kid, and I was like, Susan's a pretty good gamer. Like, if she says, and she's pretty humble, so she was like, yeah, I'm pretty good at Dr. Mario. And I was like, oh, she must be awesome at Dr. Mario. So I was like, I need to like see this. So I said, why don't we try the 2-player mode? Because then I'm doubling up on my research, right? Like I'm seeing you play and I get to try the 2-player mode in the game. And the problem with the 2-player mode is it is the only time you can play the game where you are not just playing against the game, by which I mean whoever finishes first wins. It's not highest score. It's not least number of pills. It's literally just whoever finishes first. And someone who is better is more likely to finish faster because they know exactly where the pill needs to go. So they just throw it down. They're just holding the down arrow like it ain't no thing. And I beat her somehow the very first match. And I was just like, and then never again did I come anywhere close to beating her, to the point where I actually said, I want to stop so I can watch you play. Like, can I just sit and watch you play? Because there are obviously things you're doing that I'm not even considering, because I could see kind of out of the corner of my eye, like, oh, because when you play in the 2-player mode, you actually have the same map. So, yeah. So, I mean, your viruses and their viruses are in exactly the same place. So I was like, you are clearly, and you get pills in the same order.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yes. So, I mean, you are literally competing on who is better at the core game mechanic of efficiently using pills. It's really very cleverly designed.
Huh. No, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, she's blowing me out of the water. And I was like, I'm not bad at solving puzzles. So, I mean, clearly there are things that I'm just not even considering. And one of them, which seems really dumb in hindsight, but it's that simple but deep gameplay, is there would be a situation where it was like, a vertical fever, so she's building a stack up on top of fever, and then below that fever is, let's say, a bile. Right. And then, so for the fourth pill on that, or the third one, she would do a red yellow but vertical, so that the yellow would fall down onto the bile. Yeah. And I was like, that's so incredibly obvious. I'm almost ashamed I didn't think of that. But it's just one of those things that it's like, like we agreed to run a race, but I didn't realize you were going to be on a bike and I was going to be on foot. Yep. And I'd never even seen a bike before, so I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just fancy shoes. And then it was so much better. I was like, wait, so what kind of shoes are those? And it's like, you mean my bike?
It's like, oh.
Yeah. So yeah. I probably spent, I don't know, an hour just watching her play. And then she got to the same position you were in, where she was like, I guess I have to go to bed. And I was like, oh, so the game isn't going to make you go to, like, you're not beaten. Like, you're just bored and tired.
Oh, I'm done with this now. You know what it is? It's Goku fighting 100% Frieza, where he just stands up and he's like, done. Yeah, there's no fight left in you. No, there were a couple of techniques that like I slowly started to, that one I learned and picked up on. Another one that I remembered, not remembered, but figured out. I don't know, one of the two. I did one of the two. Is the fact that the nice thing is that it doesn't, you think automatically, because the pills are falling down, that you build on top of stuff, and generally that's what you do. But it's, if you get 4 in a row in any direction, right? So you can also build out from the side.
Which is harder, but totally possible.
Harder, but totally possible. And you can also, too, build up from underneath, which I was able to do on a couple of times where, basically, I remember at one point, again, managing project management, managing short-term and long-term goals, where what I did was on top of, like, let's just say there was a fever, whatever, right? On top of it, I just stacked random pills because, that was not now, right? Because I'd stacked so much garbage on top of one item that I needed to get to, one virus, right? I was like, it's going to take me forever to get rid of all the garbage that I've accidentally stacked on top of it. but I just stacked up underneath it and then just shoved the colors underneath until I could grab it from the bottom. Right. And then that collapsed everything else down. And then if I was being really clever, I'd make sure the stuff that was collapsing down matched the stuff that I dumped on top of that other pill. So that way that all matched and went away, you know? So there's definitely, like you said, it's very simple. It's just kind of like match the colors. That's it. That's all you need to know. Match the colors.
Connect 4.
Yeah. Bam. Done. But then it's just kind of like, but here's all this fun, cool ways you can do it. And you're like, oh yeah, no, that is pretty neat. And that does nicely lead into one of the things I mentioned is that you definitely want to say that this is a Tetris clone. I actually think that the core aesthetics and the gameplay is closer to Simon than Tetris. Because the thing I was trying to do the most was remember where my color combinations were in the levels, like where I was putting what color combinations to destroy which viruses. I spent more time using that portion of my brain than the shape fitting that is Tetris, you know?
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. So I'm putting aside whether or not that's a valid comparison. I can imagine game design it's blank mushed up with blank. Like that's, you know, like it's Tetris, but with Simon qualities. Like that's a very believable way that somebody could take an existing game like Tetris. And then, I mean, think about like one of the most famous enduring things from Star Trek is 3D chess. And it's like, it's chess, but also tall. Like it's chess with also a chessboard. Like it's really not. It's a brilliant leap because the minute you hear it, you're like, well, that's stupid. And it's like, but you didn't think of it, right? Like it was too obvious. And I could imagine someone saying like, you know, oh man, Tetris is like you gotta make the rows. What if there was like crap in the way? And then it's like, oh yeah, it's like this changes everything, but not in like a stupid drug fueled hippie way. Like that literally does actually change everything.
Yeah, no, with 3D chess, that was one of those things where like, 'cause I'm not an amazing chess player to begin with, and so I feel like I was like whenever somebody was like, we should learn how to play 3D chess like in Star Trek, I was like, yeah, why don't we get better at 2D chess first?
What if chess?
What if not the other stuff? We're not there yet. Although my favorite variant on chess, and I think we've played it, is drinking chess.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Which I mean, you one are better at chess than me, and two have a higher tolerance for alcohol than I do.
Yeah,
so playing drinking chess is really just saying, do you want to get drunk faster than me, but in like a complicated way?
Do you want to just that's true. Do you want to drink a whole lot more than me, but with more rules? Sure. But yeah, no, I don't know why I always like that one, just because and for those who of our listeners who haven't played drinking chess with us, is you assign each piece already has a point value. You just say like it's worth that many drinks, and then you take that many drinks if that piece gets captured. But if you get checkmated, then you finish your drink, right? And so I think that that's interesting because it changes the dynamic a little bit, because then your goal becomes to destroy as many of the other person's pieces as possible until they go make a new drink and then checkmate them as fast as possible.
Yes, which is really not how you play proper chess.
No, it's not. So I kind of like that, just because, you know, I think it's such a great thing in game design where you can say like, oh yeah, well, you just drink their point value. It's like, yeah, that seems like that's an innocuous change, but it actually changes the way people play the game, you know? And so I think that it's just so easy to see like little things like that, even like this. And I would definitely agree with you in the sense that I don't think that this game is Simon or a Simon clone, but I think it's like got more elements of memory to it than like Tetris does. Because with Tetris, you can look at the screen at any point in time and, you know, like you're trying to create lines, you know, but so basically any negative space needs to be filled, you know. But with Dr. Mario, there is definitely that like, okay, well, I've got like a red blue pair here, red yellow pair here, straight up red over here, you know, like, so there's basically, what would that be, 6, right?
Yeah.
different, areas where you need to remember kind of like what you're doing, which again leads back to good project management, because you have many different projects going on at the same time, but you have to make sure that they're all harmonized and moving towards the long-term goal of the entire project, which is to clear the level.
Well, those
I'm
are
telling
like
you, man.
your milestones, your deliverables.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. No, I'm actually I'm starting to agree with you. We need to write this book.
Right. Sorry, folks. No episode this week. We got to write the book first.
And and that actually. So sorry. While we're on the book writing thing, one of the things that, because I didn't think about it like as like but this is also something that I did realize as far as like the down the rabbit hole kind of thing is. So you mentioned dropping blocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things in many different like leadership things, and that they always say like, well, when you're looking at a process, question everything, because so many times you'll look at a process and be like, all right, well, we have to do A, and if you just assume that, then that can throw a wrench in things, because sometimes you don't have to do thing A. You have to question whether or not that is actually a necessary part of the process, right? So I'm used to, again, similar to Tetris, I was just kind of like, alrighty, I got this thing lined up, drop the block. Good. Next one, line it up, drop the block. Perfect. And all of a sudden I was like, why am I dropping these blocks? Because I realized that if I didn't drop the block, if I just got it lined up, then I could look at the next block. And while that block fell on its own accord, spend the time while it falls figuring out where I was going to put the next block. So it actually bought me a valuable couple of seconds that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And when you're playing one player, it is based on clearing the level, not on speed of clearing the level.
Right.
So because of that, there was literally no value. There was no value add, right, to to dropping the block, right? And so it was actually, and it was getting in the way of my long-term goals. So I was just kind of like, I shouldn't be doing that unless literally. I would do it towards the end when I just, had like 3 viruses and I knew exactly where everything was going and it didn't matter. But when I was at like 74, 75 viruses, I'd line something up and I'd be like, okay, now you do your thing, because I got to figure out where this next one goes. Because if I make about 3 mistakes, this whole thing's going to fall apart on me. So,
well, and this is so. I think it's fair to say like we both enjoyed playing the game. A little bit to my surprise, which was kind of delightful, because I expected this to be like a little bit of a slog, but I was like, maybe it'll be pretty good. And it turned out that I enjoyed it quite a bit, which was nice because, expectations under promise, over deliver.
Yep.
But the one thing that I didn't mention in 2-player that's it's another very small change that dramatically changes the gameplay is if you, because your whatever didn't get cleared then falls down. So like you get 4 reds, and then whatever was sticking off of those, like they fall, right?
Right.
Well, if you line up multiples either at once or you line up multiples like they fall and it creates a double or more, that crap flies onto your opponent's screen.
Yes, I remember that from 5 years ago where I just beat the mess out of that one guy. I did something and he just started swearing. I was like, what? He's like, every time you do that, it throws garbage on my screen. I was like, oh.
Yeah. And there's actually the fact that it throws garbage on your screen is detrimental to your long-term goals of clearing.
Right.
It's all project management speak.
Oh yeah. No, we've completely changed our jargon from like gameplay stuff to like, well, you see, the problem is, Lions, that this doesn't really service your long-term goals. It's like, oh, I absolutely agree. And so anyways,
it does impact your long-term goal of beating your opponent and doing it as quickly as possible, because now you have more crap on your screen. The thing that is actually the largest, I think, impact to your ability to then beat your opponent is, so like say you get a fever and a chill, so now I'm gonna get a red and a blue single block, like just one little pill thing is gonna fall down based on where those things were when they were destroyed on the screen. So then they fall from the top. I can't do anything while that's happening. Like, so I just have to sit and calmly wait for crap to fall down from the top of the screen and then screw me up. So like on the one hand, you could say like, oh, well, they're giving you a second to think about this newfound information, but it's like, yeah, but this is a game based on speed. Like if I was playing just against the computer and this happened randomly, then maybe that would be different. But when it's first across the finish line and this happens, especially playing against Susan, who got doubles like they were going out of style, she's just like doubles, like not even counting them, just
Nice.
and so a couple times she beat me where like she arguably threw like twice as many pills as I did because she continues to play while I am waiting for this sadness to happen. And if you are very unfortunate and they fall all the way to the bottom of the screen, it's like, oh, so I need them to land anywhere so that I can get back to playing. It would be nice if they landed somewhere that actually was beneficial. Like, oh, a red one landed on top of a fever. That's not so bad. But for them to just sadly, slowly make their way to the bottom of the pill bottle, you're like, okay, this feels like a disproportionate punishment / reward.
Right. Well, I mean, it's and I always flip these two, but it's a feedback loop where basically once the person starts to gain an advantage, their likelihood of gaining a grander advantage increases.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, a good example would be like beer pong. It's like if you start to lose beer pong, the chances of you continuing to lose this hand-eye coordination game now that you've been forced to drink is higher. So that's interesting. And most of the time in game design, you try to avoid that. But, one of the things, though, I would argue that I don't like about modern game design is I think that that feedback loop should be curtailed to a degree. But it is so frustrating sometimes in modern games where you are doing very, very well. Your opponent's struggling and it's a skill-based game. So you're like, hey, we were arguing on who was better at this game, me or you. I'm better because I've, done everything right. But then they get 4 stars for participating and another star for the fact that they didn't wear shoes in your house and, like whatever the hell they're getting stars for. Or
weird ass game you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk to you offline about this particular game. You should get into it now. Anyways,
no, don't get into it.
No, don't. This game's just for me. But yeah, so that gets frustrating, I think, sometimes in modern games. So now when I see that lack of a balancing mechanic in older games, a part of me is a little refreshed because it's like, no, good. You started losing and then you continued to lose because the other person was better than you, and the game didn't help even the scales just to make things more nail biting. You know,
rubber band physics in Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, no, I
I get why they had to do something, because literally just saying the first to finish would make the 2-player game different from the single player game in basically no way, because you could master the single player game and then you just dominate in the 2-player game. But because the double or triple or however many things you can cleverly line up will then go onto your opponent's screen, that is a kind of thinking you don't necessarily have to develop in the single player game. You could be excellent at the single player game and not be throwing doubles like they're going out of style. You're incentivized to do that, but you're not required to do it. Whereas in the 2-player game, you're really heavily incentivized to do it because it gives you a marked advantage.
Well, and that's interesting because actually one of the notes that I had was because I only played the single player one. And so I had a choice either way. So basically, at first I was just kind of like, okay, well, do you go for, setting up the pills and the viruses in such a way that, it's minimal effort, minimal damage, in the sense that, you're maximizing for clearing a virus at a time? Or do you try to set up these like huge Rube Goldberg machines, and so that way you put that final pill in place and then you clear like 15 pills all at once, like which one do you go for? And at first I was going for like the Rube Goldberg machine because I think that looks really cool. And honestly, it makes me feel very clever. So, whatever. And then again, project management, I was like, that's not helping my long-term goal. So let's narrow it down. Let's one piece flow this, right? So, but that's interesting.
Too minimal though has the opposite problem of, if you're like, okay, I want to clear this fever, so I'll put, a red, blue, and then, the next one's a red, yellow, that's fine. Oh, and then the next one's a red, blue, that's fine. And it's like, yeah, you cleared the fever, but now you have this freaking mess
Yeah.
So it's like you can't get too into the details of like, I'm going to build this grand thing. This is almost like software design because there's two methodologies. When we've gone so far off the rails.
I mean, we knew this. I mean, the game is a single visual and a single mechanic. This was always going to go off the rails.
It was meant to be. So there's these two methodologies. One is called waterfall, where you do all of stage 1, then all of stage 2, then all of stage 3. So it's like, plan, design, build, ship, that kind of thing. And then agile is where you do each of those things kind of in like small cycles. So like plan, design, build, ship this little thing, and then iterate, and then iterate, and then iterate, and then iterate. So like the visual that I think came from Spotify is the first place I ever saw it. I doubt they invented it, but it's like if you came to me and you said, I need a vehicle, and I was like, okay, here's a skateboard. And it's like, well, this is faster than walking, but really I was thinking more like a car. And it's like, well, I don't have a car, but here, I'll add this handle to the skateboard. So now it's like a scooter. So now you can go even faster. Like, well, I still really kind of want a car, but yeah, this is a lot faster. And it's like, okay, now I'll add a little motor. So it's like a little moped, right? And then it's a motorcycle, and then it's a car. So it's like the problem you were trying to solve was like, I need a faster mode of transportation. And it's like, I will get to your thing, but you can either walk for 6 months until I build you a car, or you can ride this skateboard, then ride this moped, like a month at a time. So it's two different kind of ways of thinking. And I think the problem with waterfall, like build the giant Rube Goldberg machine, is obvious because you make one mistake and the entire thing breaks horrifically. Yes. Whereas like focusing on too atomized of a problem is where you have no clear vision for the long-term future. So we call it technical debt in the software space, where you're like, I solved this problem. And it's like, but you created 10 problems. This is worse. We were better off just having the one problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially like, and Dr. Mario is a great, again, foil for this, or not foil, a example of this is, like you said, is that if you have anything that you're trying to do, where if you say like, I am going to maximize for thing A and to hell with everything else, right, then that's dangerous because like you said, is that if you are like, I'm going to clear this one virus, then the chance of you creating a huge mess outside of that is much higher. But I think that the nice thing that I've learned from you talking is that there is a time when creating the Rube Goldberg, they incentivize creating the Rube Goldberg machine, which is in 2-player mode, when it's just kind of like, no, it's you want to get those doubles. So there is a reason to do that. But then I like the idea of like, okay, so then in single-player mode, it actually changes your goals, which again,
are you now practicing to play 2-player mode?
Right, but it all comes back to, again, this is just this dynamic project management learning tool, right? It's like, so even the goals within the game can change depending upon what it is that you're trying to, like whether it's 1-player mode or 2-player mode.
Where do you want your career as a doctor to go?
What?
Where do you want your career as a doctor to go?
Exactly. So if you're playing in 1-player mode, then it's like, okay, it makes more sense to maximize for these target objectives. But if you're playing in 2-player mode, it makes more sense to maximize for these target objectives, because your objective in 2-player mode isn't to finish the game, it's to finish the game faster than your opponent. And creating the Rube Goldberg machine does serve that goal by screwing over your opponent.
Right.
So,
well, and I noticed the thing that helped me get over, because I was kind of surprised how loud like my 12-year-old self voice was, where it's just like, you suck at these games. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm a pretty good puzzle solver. Not when you're on the clock. I'm like, shut up. I can handle this. So like, I was surprised, because normally like I'm not, I can play a game I'm terrible at and not really care. And I'm not bad at video games, so that's not even a problem I frequently have to butt up against. But this is a kind of game that I'm not amazing at, and the mechanic of not being able to control the speed of the game means you get better on their terms. So if you finish a level, then fine, or if you die, then fine. But there's this weird middle ground that you kind of alluded to a couple different times of like, I have made so many mistakes that to finish this level will be just arduous. It's totally possible, but am I willing to sit here and put in the mind-numbing work of facing each of my errors one at a time? Because clearing your own like checkerboard stack of pills that you idiotically put down because you can't remember which one flips clockwise and which one flips counterclockwise is even though it's literally the same mechanic, it feels different than facing the viruses. So like there were the first couple games I played, I mean literally like rounds of gameplay, I was like doing okay and I would like go up a couple of levels and then I would make like a few mistakes and I would get frustrated and then just intentionally bomb out because my thinking at first was like, oh, if I continually play the easier levels, I will start to build up better habits. And then I stopped doing that and was like, no, I have to learn to deal with my mistakes because this is the greatest life lesson tool God has ever given us. And somehow we have all been foolishly overlooking it.
Apparently. Yeah, no, I mean, apparently the answer to all of it the whole time. Like that's the prestige. The prestige of life is
Dr. Mario.
The answer the whole time. It was always Dr. Mario, you know?
But I mean, it actually made me, because it forced me to assess like long-term versus short-term goals. What's a crisis? What feels like a crisis, but it's not actually a crisis, right? And so when if I got to the end of a level or near the end of a level where I was now faced with dealing with my mistakes, it was like, well, yeah, I could just, flip the TV off and call it a day, or I could clean up my mess.
Yep.
And then try and do better next time. Yep. And it's like, so not only is it like the greatest project manager training tool, but there's like a whole like coming of age story that we could write about Dr. Mario.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because that's the thing is that, and I think that it's interesting because I don't think I would have gotten there on my own, but like, so like you said, it's mechanically, it's the same, whether you're destroying viruses or cleaning up your excess pills, right? And by the way, I totally expected this episode to go into like weird drug abuse areas. So I think the fact that we've managed to make it like about project management and like life goals, I'm kind of a little proud of us for
more than a
like
little.
A high road.
Yeah, absolutely.
certainly by comparison. So then, okay, so the viruses are a metaphor for other people's mistakes. And the pills are the metaphor for your mistakes. And it always feels worse and always seems worse to be cleaning up your own mistakes than somebody else's. Because when you're fixing somebody else's mistakes, you feel like you're making progress forward. But one way or another, they're both mistakes that have to be fixed. And they take the same amount of time and the same amount of effort. It just feels worse to clean up your own mistakes.
I'm gonna reframe that as external problems, like things that are not under your control versus things that could have been under your control, but you flubbed on.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah. Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
don't know how I'm going to go to sleep after recording this. Like my mind's all abuzz.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you. How about this? After this, we'll get off of here, and then we'll both just sit down and we'll come up with the table of contents tonight
for the book.
And then hopefully in like 6 months or something, on this nostalgia goggles, it could be like, hey, so we wrote this book. Go check out this book. It's pretty neat. And then I think out of the two of us, though, honestly, you should do the book on tape. Like between the two of us.
Oh, do I get to do the audiobook?
Oh, Jesus, yes. I mean,
I didn't want to assume.
Oh yeah, no. I mean that's safe. If for some reason somebody needs to lift a large number of the books over their head, like I'll
call you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that while you narrate me lifting it. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So now there's going to be like a whole nature documentary of us like delivering the books to the warehouse. Man, this is exactly like. This is another like half troll moment where like I'm kind of making fun of these people, but I'm also sort of serious. Like this is literally a oh God, there's some goofy marketing name for it, but like you want to do things that will help create the next thing people will give you money for. So like say you're like you have a podcast and it's like you
hypothetically
Well, so this is what a lot of people do is like they have a podcast and then they'll turn some of their podcasts into like blog posts. Their blog posts are sponsored, or in their blog posts they talk about like physical equipment you can buy and they have like referral links, right? So like you already did the work of researching, or part of the work of researching the blog post by talking it through on the podcast, right? And then you can like continue to sort of snowball these things, and the objective is to never have like a truly isolated project. They all are related in some way so that you're getting like force multipliers all over the place. And I mean, there's a reason that that's such a common thing among like serial entrepreneurs and like, you know, self-employed, like, you know, solo business people. What do you call it? Like a business of one, you know, like I am the whole company.
One man show, but with business.
Yeah. One man business, but it's like there's this little part of me that's like, I don't know if we're ever actually going to write this book, but more importantly, I want this book to exist. So like we could write it, but I'll just die happy if someone's written it.
Yeah, no, actually, when we get off, we should just Google to see if somebody's beaten us to the punch.
Yeah. It's very possible that, I mean, the game's been around for damn near 20 years, so
yeah,
it's very possible.
Well, I know that there was, and we're way off topic on this, but like,
no, it's fine.
I know that there's a whole series of like blank and philosophy.
Yes.
Where it's like, you know, like Dragon Ball Z and philosophy and Legend of Zelda and philosophy. But I wonder, I mean, like, you see, because this could be the next project is, you know, blank and project management, you know, so it's like Dr. Mario and project management, Dragon Ball Z and project management. It's like, you don't want to be a Vegeta in a company, okay? You know, you don't want to be like constantly, you want to be the Goku, you know, you want to be like the person who, you know, like strives towards greater goals and then achieves them and then enjoys the rewards of that, but only strives for to achieve goals that better him and the people around him, don't just better himself, you know, like just, you could totally do, let's do that.
Well, and you could even, if you wanted to make them flavored a little bit differently, right? Because with Dr. Mario, we've gone like very like philosophical and like big picture self-improvement. With, you know, like Dragon Ball Z, it could be like more of like a selfish, like how do you like climb to the top of the corporate ladder? Because you don't want to just be the Goku who like thinks of the greater good. You also need to surround yourself with Tiens and Yamchas and Krillins.
Yes.
Who take the fall for you while they are trying to push you further up the ladder. Like they are, you know, the maze to your Mustang. So really, here's what this is. This is climbing the corporate ladder and anime. Like this is there's just metaphors all over, and nerds will buy that book no matter how schlocky it is.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's just kind of like if all of a sudden somebody's like, I want to climb the corporate ladder, and I like Dragon Ball Z. Well, put your hands together, sir. You know, that's.
I want to climb the corporate ladder, but I can't be bothered to read anything that's not really unnecessarily dripping with childish metaphors. Well, do I have an entire section of Amazon for you?
But yeah, so overall, though, I think the gameplay held up.
Yeah, I would. Right, we're doing a podcast. I totally I feel like I just woke up from fevers and chills. But oh Jesus. Yes, I agree with you in that it held up, but it actually, like, now that I have had my coming of age story and I am an adult and I was able to not get like controller throwingly mad at this game because of myself, because the game doesn't really cheat. Like you only take out of Dr. Mario what you put in. So, and as a kid, I was not prepared to learn those life lessons.
What's in the, you know, what does the Dr. Mario game have in it? Only what you take with you.
Yeah. And as a 12-year-old, I was not ready to take much. But now, like, because I would have said just before we were getting ready for this episode, like, I don't like Dr. Mario. Like, I like Tetris. I don't like Dr. Mario. But now, like, I will probably actually sit down and just play this of my own accord.
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, like I said, I've still got my game going. I'll probably throw another half an hour at it just to see, like, if it, you know, if I can continue on, like how far up the ladder can I go before it just, there's just too many viruses. beyond Dr. Mario's honorary art history doctorate to solve.
I did right before we were getting ready to record, probably at about 20 minutes till we were going to jump on the horn. Susan just kind of casually looked up from what she was doing and went, "Do you want me to play Dr. Mario for a little while before you record?" I was like, don't do that. Don't try and play video games under the guise of being helpful. If you want to play, you can just play.
Don't put this on me. You know.
This is you.
It'd be like tomorrow, and unfortunately, because these posts on Tuesday, this won't help anybody. But in case you are wondering why the mother of your children is mad at you or your mom's mad at you, Sunday was Mother's Day, so Well,
I'm just gonna take the kids out and let her play Dr. Mario all day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I was gonna say like that would be like saying, hey, honey, for Mother's Day, I'm gonna play Dr. Mario for you. It's like that's for you. That's a bowling ball named Homer,
Yes.
Taking the kids out and letting her play Dr. Mario, that is a good gift.
That is, yes. No cheap Hallmark cards in the Lion's house. It's all Dr. Mario. Because we now know that that's everything.
Yeah, that it is the 42. That's what it is. It's because like the idea is like the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. And then people are always like, oh, well, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, it's because you don't understand the question. The answer to life, the universe, and everything is Dr. Mario. And it's because you don't understand the question. Like I couldn't have told you that before I'd replayed it as an adult. That was because as a child, I was too young to understand the answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, oh my God. Here, this might be my greatest stretching metaphor of the show so far. It's because Dr. Mario, really, the core aesthetic, not the core like of its deepest, most self, which we now know is all of us. But the core of the aesthetic is life and death. And a child does not understand their own mortality.
Oh no, I'd even argue that I barely have a concept of my own mortality now.
Think about what Dr. Mario will mean to you when you're like in your 60s.
Oh yeah, no, it's just gonna keep gaining more and more meaning. Just recently in my own life, I somebody said, "Oh, you know what we should do? Thing A," and I said, I can't do that. And they were like, "Oh, why not? George 5 years ago would have done it." I'm like, George 5 years ago didn't have kids. Like so that I think is the only thing that's caused me to actually occasionally check my own mortality, because it's like, because before if I died, that was everybody else's problem effectively, but now like people will be impacted that don't want to be impacted. So that's the only thing that's starting to check that. So yeah, once you have kids, grandkids, got to go back and play Dr. Mario. It's like the Star Wars trilogy. I have to watch that.
Got to revisit.
Yeah, you got to apparently you have to revisit Mario every decade, Dr. Mario every decade. See how that's holding up.
The curtain falls, the music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black, and you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone, there's no player two there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creeping with the edge of a smile. You realize again what you lost for a while. You're gonna think back much less